Pfizer vaccine for COVID-19. They were Dr. Bob Leon Guerrero. He is a pediatrician, but he is also a doctor for public health. Zena Piscina, she is a nurse, and as you heard from Adriana, she has been at the forefront of the
Mass
fight
testing.
against community testing.
Yeah.
And then you have Director Arts and Augustine. They got their vaccine, and then they're now moving over to the observation area where they're going to be observed for the next 20 minutes or so, and then we're going to check back in with Adriana at 9 o'clock. But we're going to head back into the Zoom room where we have the administrator for the Guam Economic Development Authority, Melanie Mendiola. Good morning, Melanie. I think you need to unmute. There.
Good
there
morning.
You go. Good morning.
Happy day. Buenas, everyone.
What an exciting day today. Did you
Melanie,
see
yeah, it's a tough act to follow, man. Sorry.
I know. I used to work at UOG, and Dr. Underwood always used to say whenever there was a College of Nursing ceremony, he said, College of Nursing ceremonies always come with tears, because we're just so touched by the work that they do. And, I definitely felt that this morning when I was kind of listening to everything. I was like, oh my God, what a long road we've had about this.
And
that's something super emotional now, the economy.
I know, and that's the thing, right? We were dealing with the healthcare medical crisis, and then we've got the economic crisis, and that's where the Guam Economic Development Authority steps in along with the governor's economic panel of advisors. And so GEDA has offered several different programs to help some of our local businesses that are struggling during this time. And if you could just kind of give us an update on the programs that GEDA's put out and the response and the assistance that's been provided.
Sure. Well, see, so at the outset of the pandemic, we already knew that businesses would be undergoing some serious difficulty. We saw this with the first round of closures back during the lockdown in March and April. And so in response, the governor set aside some money for us to launch a grant, which we call the Small Business Pandemic Assistance Grant. So it's kind of funny, all these other programs, they all have Chamorro names like Azuda or Programa ni Auto Salapi. And they said, they came to GEDA, they said, what are you going to call the grant? And I said, the Small Business Pandemic Grant, because that's what it is. So we've managed to, so in the time that we've been running the Small Business Pandemic Grant, and mind you, the Small Business Pandemic Grant Program has been active this entire time. And so we've given out 2,338 grant awards totaling about $16.7 million. And so right now we still have about 100 applications kind of hanging out, but out of the applications, there were a number that were fraudulent, to be honest. Like we got a bunch from the mainland that kind of like, you're not a Guam business, you're not eligible. We have a few who just had pending documents who just never really kind of got up to date with never completed the process. And so we really believe right now we're trying to push out the last of it. And we're looking to do that probably by the end of this week, is to push out the last of these awards. I think we'll probably hit about 16,850 for these awards. And the awards have ranged from at the lower end of the averages were about 1,800, the higher end were 45,000. So depending on the size of the business, it was 25% of your average monthly GRT. So if your company earned $10,000 a month on average, then your award was $2,500. We know this isn't a lot of money, and a lot of times it's not enough it's really not a lot to help you get past to weather the storm. But we did feel that it was significant. It would provide help for some of the basic necessities of these businesses, like keeping their lights on, keeping their power on, or getting caught up with their rent.
Can you say what kinds of businesses they were?
Sure. I mean, they were all across the board. So for the Small Business Pandemic Grant, eligibility was pretty open. So we had everything. We had professional offices, so law firms, CPAs. We also had brick and mortar stores. We also had home-based businesses. So folks selling things out of their homes, Sensi, stuff like that. We had a few of those. And so we had it across the board. I mean, we had awards that were very small and kind of obvious that maybe the person had another job. So, I mean, I signed one award and it was like $100. And I said, $100, that means they earn $400 on average a month, or less than 5,000 a year. They probably have a real job. But, and this is like the side hustle. But, you know, having said that, the pandemic touched all businesses. But you did have to face with this particular grant, you did have to have business interruption, meaning you actually had to have suffered during the pandemic. So there are some businesses that actually did well during the lockdown. And these were a lot of the essential businesses that were that had to stay open, that remained open. So they weren't eligible. It was only the businesses that actually experienced a decline during the lockdown.
Yeah, this is all CARES Act funding, right? For this particular program, and so I want to say you guys were allotted 20 million.
Yes, we were allotted 20 million, and then right around May, or like right around June or July, I want to say, we were really just kind of hanging out at the $12.8 million level. Nothing was happening. We weren't getting a whole lot of applications. If you can recall, that was sort of the first round of recovery, and then the second lockdown happened. Then we had another surge of applications. So what we did was, so at the time, we said we think that 14 million might be it for us, or 13 or 14, I can't remember the number. And so then the Office of the Governor said, okay, we're going to divert this money elsewhere to other needs under this pandemic. And so then when the second lockdown happened, we went back. And so they gave us 4 million back, and we've been the same thing. We're kind of hanging out at the $16.7 million range for about, well over a month now.
And so there's another program, and this is for small business rent assistance grant.
Yes, small business rent relief. So this one actually, this was an idea of, I think that the people of Guam, I don't know if they recognize this by now, but they should, is that the governor and the lieutenant governor are very, they're very empathetic to what people are going through, and they listen to what the struggles of the small businesses. And I think a lot of small businesses, one of the pieces of feedback they gave was that it's really hard for them to make their rent. If they're only offering 25% capacity, or in the case of bars, they're not allowed to open at all. And yet they're still expected to do things like pay their rent. And so given that, the governor and the lieutenant governor opted to, they asked us, they said, can you work on like a rental assistance type of grant? So what we did was we looked at the data from our small business grant, and we said, how many people applied? How many of them fit into these specific categories? And what we launched was what we believe to be kind of a Main Street grant program for rental assistance. So this is where we took out, eligibility became very narrow. It became food and beverage only, brick and mortar retail, and brick and mortar personal services. So home-based businesses no longer qualified, professional offices. What we used as kind of some of the evaluating criteria was, we said, were they subject to closure or severe restriction, right, at some during one or both lockdowns? Is the work that they do the kind of work that can be done remotely? You can't get your hair cut over Zoom, obviously, right? And so for that reason, this was kind of what we did to target. We anticipated 400 or 500 businesses to be affected. And we asked the governor at the outset, we requested $5 million. She gave us 3 and then said, if you need more, come back to us. Because, the last thing we want is to get $5 or $6 million and then return 2, right? And so we asked for 3. And I'm actually happy to report we've actually blown through the $3 million, and we are asking for more as we speak. So we had about 1,000, a little over 1,000 applicants. And out of those 1,000, about 750 were eligible. And out of those eligible applicants, we have about 500 that have eaten up $3.4 million. And so you see, we still have about 250 businesses we need to find money for. I mean, we have more than 250 because 3.4 million. That's 400,000 over the 3 million.
Mm-hmm.
And so 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 that's what I'm working on. That's my big project this week. Next.
Hey,
And that's
Melanie, can I ask, I'm sorry if this has been covered before, I'm out of the loop, being in my little dungeon here, but the programs that you've had in place and the rent money that you're working on, those are great. And, there's hope there, but we're not out of this yet. So is there something in the works for maybe the next couple of months to kind of help ease us into that transition back into normalcy?
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that GEDA did in preparation was in preparation for just, we always want to be agile and ready. So if there's federal monies, I mean, we've shared this in meetings with the governor. I said, Gov, if you find yourself on December 29th and you have $5 million that you don't know what to do with, give it to me and I will figure it out,
I think all of us can say that. Governor, if you have an extra $5 million, send it my way. I'll figure out what to do with it.
Yeah, so the big one for us has been kind of creating a system such that we can efficiently process volumes of if let's say there's a second round of CARES, or let's say there's CARES number 2, right? The federal government passes down in the next couple months. We want to be ready in the event she sets aside another round for small businesses. So that's one thing. And then from the perspective of just working towards rebuilding our economy, GEDA has been working very closely with the Guam Chamber of Commerce, with the Guam Women's Chamber, and with other partners, nonprofits like GUMA, the Small Business Development Center, and we've been really just trying to attack just the rebuild of our industry at all levels. So back in November, we had a conference. It was a virtual conference called Taking the Leap, mm-hmm. And we really aimed it at folks who had a side hustle who wanted to turn it into a main hustle. So you've been seeing all this stuff on Instagram, yes. Right? The folks making the baked goods, mm-hmm. and the charcuterie boxes and all those sorts of fancy things, right? Mm-hmm. And so we did this, and so we had this conference. We invited, we had partners we had RevTax, DPW, and GFD come and talk about a path to permitting. So don't be intimidated and don't feel like this is, that you're removed from that. This is just a really difficult process. We're here to help, we're here to support. And we also had just a lot of entrepreneurs, so grassroots folks who went from doing backyards to going after commercial contracts as far as landscaping is concerned, some of our local designers and things. So it was a lot of, it was nuts and bolts, and it was inspiration. And it was geared at the startups, right? Yeah. And then from the perspective of industry building and industry development, we've been working very closely with the chambers, and that's to really look at diversifying our economy. And this has been something, ever since Governor Leon Guerrero came in, she said, we can't just rely on tourism and the military. And so she shared with me, I kind of thought she hired me because I was a smart gal. But then she goes, no, I want to work with farmers like you did at Farm to Table. I was like, oh, Gov, okay. And so, agriculture, aquaculture she's always been really keen on that. And so that was something we were working on pre-pandemic, that now the pandemic has just it's almost forced us to really push forward with these initiatives. And then with the chamber, reviving things that maybe never quite found traction 20 years ago, like alternative dispute resolution, so mediation, arbitration here in Guam. Let me see some other things. There's a lot of this movement and discussion about companies moving out of Hong Kong. So there's other Asian countries and Australia are all kind of targeting these Hong Kong corporates, mid-sized, medium-sized to large corporates to come to their jurisdiction to do business. Mm-hmm. And so the chamber and GEDA, we believe that maybe Guam has some competitive advantage being, America in Asia, in this proximity to Asia. So those are some of the things that we're working on as far as the bigger picture of trying to rebuild our economy. And then, making borrowing easy, I think that's also something we worked on, but it was always kind of quiet at GEDA because A lot of times people want, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but free money is king, right? And then the borrowed money is like second. But I think that's one thing that there might be a bigger appetite for in 2021, might be businesses saying, I see the light at the end of the tunnel. I need to, sort out my cash situation. And so perhaps borrowing. And so we've done more with regard to our borrowing, our lending here. We're offering, we offer an interest only at GEDA. We offer an interest only loan until 2022. So you can go to one of our partner banks, Bank of Guam, Bank Pacific, and Community First, and apply. It's our SSBCI program. Or you can come straight to GEDA if you get a declination from a bank. And this is for like an interest only type of loan until 2022. So that's a really low payment until you start to kind of see some recovery. So we think that'll be helpful for some of the tourism industry, especially type businesses.
Melanie,
So we saw with public health all the hope that with this vaccine today, which is pretty big, and you from an economic standpoint, how hopeful are you guys for the next few months in the recovery?
Well, I think the people of Guam and businesses, I think business in Guam and business people in Guam are resilient. We've had over the last 30 years, you've had the Japanese economy go into recession. And their recession was like 10 years long, okay? And then you had our tourism industry diversify into the Korean markets. Now you're seeing tourism diversify maybe into Taiwan, maybe, and so on and so forth. We've had natural disasters, earthquakes, all of that kind of stuff. This is the first that we've had of this sort of this pandemic, and this was a long situation. This wasn't a typhoon, right? This is like a year-long typhoon.
Yeah.
And so I think that for the most part, Guam tracks the United States in a lot of ways. So in the States, you see the financial markets. You saw the market pull back at the outset of the pandemic, and then you saw it kind of come back. And then with the election, there was uncertainty again because all the Republicans are like, if Trump doesn't win, all the rich people are going to get poor and, all sorts of things. And so there was, again, a little bit of a pullback in the market, but then it came basically roaring back in a very bullish kind of environment we have right now for investment. The interest rates remain historically low. So if you talk to, I think, our local appraisers, they're going to tell you, like, they're having a hard time keeping up. I'm trying to, I don't know about you guys, but now's a good time to refinance your house.
Mm-hmm.
But if you call the bank because of the COVID restrictions, you're kind of like, okay, when can I get an appointment? 1 month. What if the interest rates go up, And so when I see things like that, when you see historically low interest rate, when you see a bullish financial market, and you say to yourself, is Guam more like the United States, or are we really unique and we're really just, so I think to myself, I said, I think on top of all those good things happening in the States, as far as the markets are concerned, you have this vaccination, or you have this vaccine, and you have an already resilient business community. And so I do think we're going to, I think there's hope for our economy. I think there are some permanent changes that people should be adjusting to. I think that, one of the things that I noticed during our small business conference are businesses who were adaptive, businesses who adapted to technology quicker, right? Businesses who were agile, right? As far as servicing their customers, they did so much better than businesses who said, no, we're just going to close our doors and wait, or we're just going to wait, right? So I think given all those things, I think business people in general are resilient, and I think business people in general they're used to living on the edge, not like people like me, who need a job and a 401 and a insurance, they're used to living on the edge. And I think that if we support them, I think that if the GEDA's out there, the chambers out there, and the governor, at which she is supportive, if we support them, then there's a lot of hope for them in the next year.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to get an update. There was one other program. It was established through an executive order, and it was to help medical clinics. I think the tier
Oh,
ones
yes.
and the tier twos. What's the update on that?
Yeah, that one, I think that was a small one. The governor set aside 2 million for that. I believe we helped, I believe that touched, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but I believe that touched something like 25 or so clinics that applied. You had to be a brick and mortar facility, either a clinic or of medical services or mental health services. And so that community is relatively small, if you think about it, because a lot of doctors here who do double duty, right? They're like a hospitalist at GMH, and then they have participate in a practice over here. And so, we're just about wrapped up. That one had a deadline of on December 11th, I believe it was. And so since then, right now, we've doled out all the awards for that, and we are now just at, I think we have a few that are asking for that one as well. You needed to have interruption. So your business needed to have gone down during this pandemic period. And so we do have a few reconsiderations from clinics who were turned down initially and then have come back. So we're working through that with them, and hopefully by the probably end of the week, early next week, we'll have them sorted out.
Is it too late for any of these businesses to apply for some of the programs funded by the CARES Act?
Okay. Yes and no. Yes, it's too late because all the deadlines have passed. However, if you have your act together, as in you have all your documents in order today, like if you say, Mel, I got all my GRTs, I have an updated business license, I have my landlord ready to sign off and say, and you can turn all those things in today, then we'll probably put you in the running. For the small business pandemic grant, what I guess where we are though at this point in time is for both the small business and the rent relief, you're at the back of the line here. So even though we accept your application today, the money may be exhausted by the time it gets to you. So, it's kind of up to businesses to, that's something they'd like to do.
So people are listening and they want to get more information, just call GEDA, right? Or email.
Oh, yes. So they can reach us at 647-4332, or our website is www.investguam.com.
Well, you guys are meeting, the board is scheduled to meet this afternoon. What's on the agenda for today?
Yes, we're meeting this afternoon at 1:30. On the agenda today, I will be giving the board an update about our grant programs. I kind of think that's it. I don't think we have anything really pressing today. Just kind of end of the calendar year type of reporting. We're also going to be discussing next steps. So again, back to our virtual conference, we had 150 attendees, and we did a post-conference survey. And one of the pieces of feedback we got was a lot of them wanted more training on e-commerce, digital marketing, and things like that. And so talking to the board about how they'd like to press forward with that. So some of the ideas are, should GEDA kind of like contract out some training services, or should we have organizations apply for a special grant to conduct training or coaching or mentoring to these businesses, or do we do it ourselves and look for some good folks to provide these trainings? So we're going to be talking a little bit about that today as well.
All right. Thanks a lot, Mel, for coming on the show, and Merry Christmas. Any, holiday messages to the people of Guam?
I think just from the team at GEDA, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and hang in there. We are all in this together, and we're here for you. And so we look forward to the new year. And we hope that people kind of keep in touch with us and let us know what, if you're a small business and you have some strong feelings about what we should be doing, then of course speak up, reach out to us, and we always want to hear from feedback from the community. And so That's pretty much it.
All right. Thanks a lot, Mel. Merry Christmas to you and your family and everybody over there at GEDA.
All right, all of you as well. Take
Okay.
care. Bye.
Bye. Stay safe. That was Melanie Mendiola. She's the administrator over at the Guam Economic Development Authority, just kind of giving us an update on all of the programs that GEDA has been offering to local businesses that have been suffering, and also just even for employees out there and people of Guam to help train them up and get them ready for Guam's when the economy recovers. If you have any questions or want any information about the programs over at GEDA, their email or their website is www.investguam.com. You can also give them a call,